Right, Stephen, before the meeting. 3, 2. Well, Steve, somebody said you don't go well at Peterborough. Did you not listen to them?
So I've got, he's got 9 knickers on.
That's spoiled it, isn't it? I don't think I went that well. I got 8 points from 4 rides, which I was more than happy with, you know. The good thing is we won. That was a bit strong, that.
100% unbeaten record in the league. Is that going to continue this evening?
Oh, you shouldn't have said that. What did you let him say that for?
Well, Bill, can you tell us your feelings on Tigers captain Steve Lawson?
I don't think I could print it in camera work, to be honest with you. The man's perfect. The only folk that don't think so, the promotion occasionally. But he's impeccable. I mean, it says in the programme tonight that he's going for a 9-point average. For the number of years he's ridden, any rider that even contemplates 9 points is above criticism as far as I'm concerned.
As far as I'm concerned, he's been the Tigers' all-time #1. Having seen him from when he joined the Tigers, seeing the number of points he's scored for the Tigers and happy memories that he's given me, especially away from home, then obviously other people may feel different with maybe Tigers greats like Charlie Monk in the 60s, Jim McMillan, late 60s, early 70s, then when he came back, and Kenny McKenna since we've been at Shawfield. But Steve's especially seen us through in the bad years, the very, very bad years, and he's still proving today that what a great rider he is.
Well, Steve, possibly you could first of all start by explaining where we are.
Well, we're actually standing in a field that's just been cut for hay. I'm leaning against the tractor and the grass cutting machine. We're in field 1L, and clouds in the sky. What more do you need to know? A Bank End Farm.
Right, the Steve Lawson story obviously starts in 1957. You won't remember much about that date.
No.
What sort of early childhood memories do you have?
Well, you should have warned me about this one. Speedway related, you mean? No. Early childhood memories. Good God. No, it's a blank. I can't remember. I've got a poor memory. I can't remember back any early ones.
So, what age were you when you first went along to a Speedway meeting?
10 and 11.
And that would have been at Workington?
Yeah, that was at Workington, 1970. And I went with a few of the mates, and we just used to sneak over the fence. We didn't pay in to get in, and we'd just sort of run about the place. And then it wasn't until Oh, we'd been to maybe 3 or 4 meetings that we started to get interested in it and buying programs and actually paying to get in. And we really got... The whole town was hooked on Speedway then because, you know, there wasn't a lot happening and everybody was talking about Speedway and you just had to go to see what it was all about. I mean, the early crowds down there, they must have been getting 8,000 people. You had to go early to get a decent place in the stadium. The whole town was buzzing with it, and you know we just got swept along with it.
I took them down to Workington in 1970 when they started, just curiosity, because I'd never seen Speedway, and it all started from then.
When I was 14, my dad bought me a Jap Speedway bike, and we took it down into the sand and fell off it right away, first time on it. But having had a bit of experience on bikes and learning to sort of slide the bikes, the old bikes that we used to buy, I soon got the hang of sliding the Speedway bike on the corners. And practiced down on the beach for a while, went to the track, and I wasn't allowed to race anybody because I was the only one that was under 16. So I just used to go around after the meeting on my own, and they used to let me do 4 laps and that, you know, and that's how I got started. But I didn't have any, you know, no racing experience. That was a bit of a problem. I wish I could have had somebody else my age to race against, because it was frightening when I got my first race when I was 16.
So was there a history of motorcycle sports in the family then?
No. My dad used to take me to the local scramble events. I can remember doing that when I was younger. But he never had a bike, no.
So I presume then with you first going along to Workington, it was inevitable that would be your first home track. What do you remember of those very early days?
Of actual riding on the... I can remember hitting somebody coming the wrong way around the track one week. He was coming back to the pits and I was coming into the pits bend, and we met head on. I can remember that. I must have been about 14 or 15. That was a bit of an experience, because you don't often meet people coming in opposite directions on a speedway track. I can remember, you know, I was like a speedway supporter, like any other speedway supporter, but I had a bike as well. You know, I had heroes like most speedway fans. Some of my early heroes were Bob Valentine and Lou Sansom, both Australians, and you sort of hero worship these people. And then when you finally got to get on the... Well, I never raced at the same time as Bob Valentine, but Lou Sansom, you know, I was lucky enough to ride in the same team as him and actually race with him for Workington, which was, you know, it was a nice experience having watched somebody and sort of idolised them, and then getting the opportunity to race with them and sometimes beating them, you know, in the second half events that they used to have. So, you know, that was sort of my early impressions. Getting the privilege to sort of race with your heroes. Mitch Graham, he was a big help to me. He was a local rider, and I used to mechanic for Mitch on some of the away trips, and that was useful because, you know, he got me into the pits and where the action was, and it was a good experience, that being a mechanic and seeing how it all happens.
So how long and how successful was your stay at Workington then?
4 years I was there, actually, right, you know, from when I was 16, yeah. A couple of years finding my feet, and then the third year I sort of made the breakthrough into the team. I had a pretty good season because my dad and grandfather bought me a Westlake, and there was sort of there wasn't many of them around, and I felt as though I had a hell of an advantage with the Westlake. You know, it really gave me a lot of confidence, and I had a good year. I went from probably, you know, like being reserve the year before to ending the season as a heat leader. That was 1976, and then the following year, I sort of stood still. I don't think I progressed any more at Workington, and I don't know, I seemed to get in a rut. And then after that, you know, we moved on to Glasgow, but I did stand still, you know, like after initially making the breakthrough into the team, become the heat leader, and then you don't sort of progress any further from that. I felt a bit flat, and there was changes at Workington at the time. We were changing promotion, and I was sold to Bellevue, and then I didn't actually leave Workington to go to Glasgow. I left, on paper, I left Bellevue to go to Glasgow. But yeah, I think it was the best decision I ever made.
Within those first 4 years you actually rode at Coatbridge a couple of times. Do you actually remember anything about that?
Yeah, I can remember Coatbridge. The first time I saw it, I actually rode there when I went up, they used to run training skills at the weekends during the winter, and I came up, I went up for a go around, and I thought, God, how do people race around this place? It was absolute bomb site. There was big holes in it, and I just couldn't get round. And then when I found out that I was going to have to go and race there, I dreaded it. But you know, there were worse tracks, and you just got to learn to ride them all, I suppose.
So if you'd signed for Bellevue, why didn't you stay in British League? I wasn't really good enough at the time. I didn't feel I was good enough to go British League then. You know, I feel as though you need a real good year in the second division, and then you ride on the confidence of that in your first year in the first division, and hopefully you stay there. But you know, you've got to be high in confidence, and I wasn't ready for it. I didn't feel at the time. So you moved on from Bellevue to Blantyre, it was now known as Blantyre 1. What's your recollections of there?
Yeah, it was the best track to me. It's the best track ever. I just loved the place, mainly because a lot of people didn't like it. It had long straights and really sharp corners, and it was quite. There was a bit of a knack to riding it, and you could just, you know, you just knew people didn't enjoy racing it, and I liked it. It seemed as though it was just made for me. I felt as though that if I was designing a track, I would build it just like that, because you could get 4 overtakes on one corner of each lap. It was some track. I was, you know, when it closed down, I was rather disappointed.
Before you actually went to Blantyre 1, Edinburgh were interested in you. What finally clinched your decision to go to Glasgow?
The strength of the Edinburgh team. Oh God, I'll end up reserving the first month there, because they'd signed everybody. They'd spent a lot of money during the winter, and they'd signed some
they're a hell of a team on paper. And I thought, well, you know, I'd seen Edinburgh track, and I knew I liked that track, but I just heard about the Blantyre one, and I just felt that would be the right decision. I don't know why, but probably the strength of the Edinburgh team. I don't think they needed anybody else. You know, they're a good team.
So you were saying that you never went to the British League because you hadn't had a good season behind you. At Blantyre one, you had all the good seasons behind you, and Cradley were interested.
Yeah.
Why didn't you go British League then either?
I was enjoying life where I was at the time. There was a time when it could have gone either way. Cradley were very interested, and Glasgow were pushing, you know, for me to make a decision. And it was during the winter. What year would it be? Winter of 81, 82. And if there was ever a time, that would have been when I would have I would have gone, but I decided to stay. Cradley didn't sort of come. They said they were interested, but you know, they were looking at other riders, and I just said, oh well, we'll stay at Glasgow, and that, you know, it wasn't no big deal. I just thought I'd stay at Glasgow because I'm happy there.
Another confrontation between Lawson and Finch. This time it's Lawson that makes the turn. Lawson in the lead. Steve Finch on his outside. In third place, Charlie McKenna. Fourth, Phil Alderman. Tremendous battle going on in third and fourth places there. Charlie McKenna's holding on to third place, but he's under tremendous pressure from Phil Alderman, and Alderman crashes into the pit turn fence. The riders on the last lap now. If the race is stopped, I'm sure the referee will let the placings remain. And again, Lawson makes the turn, and Charlie McKenna made sure that Steve Finch wasn't going to get through there. Very mature ride from first turn from Charlie McKenna. And the Glasgow pairing clear in the lead. Lawson, Charlie McKenna, Steve Finch. Gonna need a mountain of luck to get past this pairing as they come off the final turn now. And it's a win for Steve Lawson, second, and a brilliant ride from Charlie McKenna.
And the tension already mounting. This is quite a big evening for the riders competing. And off the outside in yellow and black from Glasgow, Steve Lawson. So we have the two Scottish competitors out here now with their close local rivals, the Berwick Bandits. So Martin Yates a little bit the odd man out in this one. But it's Yates skating first. He leads the way into the first turn. Martin Yates, runner-up twice, out to improve on that tonight. And the fight now for second and third being won by Steve Lawson. McDermott back in third, coming under pressure from Dave Brownson. And Yates leads the way, looking very confident around this plough lane circuit. As you heard him say at the start of the meeting, feels very happy here at Wimbledon. He's ridden here a few times with the Pool Pirates, these days as a full-time British League rider. One of several men to have tasted full-time British League action. Martin, of course, now doubles up with the Swindon Robins. Hasn't ridden here with the Robins this year, but showing that he's no slouch around plough lane. Martin, of course, one of the few winners of a National League Open event this year. There have been very few individual titles in the National League due to the Super National tournament at the end of the year. Martin won the Hartford Motored Superstar at Oxford. And he wins heat two. Martin Yates first, second in yellow and black it's Steve Lawson, third in white. Had a clear lead there. Let's see if he can do it again. I'm sure there's a lot of supporters backing the three other riders in this race, but we don't want to offend the Newcastle fans. Owen, a very worthy winner if he does do it, but 15 fans hoping he does. 15 sets of fans, I should say. Lawson leads once more. Owen holding on to third place, trying the outside line through into second place, and that's all he need do. Second place to bring home the National League Riders' Championship once more to Newcastle and be the first rider ever to win it twice. And now challenging for the lead. He's not satisfied with second place. He wants a full 5-ride maximum. And showing his racer's character here, not settling back to second place. He's got Lawson in his sights. Wants to go out in style. Lawson grimly holding on to first place. The third man, Barney Kennett, and fourth, Alan Molyneux, but that doesn't matter with just over one lap remaining. Joe Owen is heading to the Elite Riders Championship. Steve Lawson heading him home in this one, but it doesn't matter. Joe's still enough in the other 4 rides to guarantee that he will have his hands on the trophy come the end of the racing. And that's the way it finishes. First, Steve Lawson. Second, Joe Owen. Third in red, Barney Kennett. And fourth, Alan Molyneux. Steve Lawson finishes on 8. Barney Kennett finishes on 5. Molyneux finishes on 6, but finishing on 14 points. The 1982 National League Riders Champion, Joe Owen, completing a double for Newcastle. And a treble if you take into account the National League falls as well. Joe Owen, the 1982 champion.
So Peter, do you have any recollections of the early Steve Lawson to contribute to this tape?
Yes, I think I'm right in saying that it was the last year that I was running Rayleigh Rockets. Apologise for showing my age, but I do remember the ginger-haired, toozle-haired kid that was just starting at Workington in those days. And in fact, I could add another little one to that. I think it was Mark Courtney. He used to come around when the boys were doing their bikes in the car park and sliding around on a cycle speedway bike. So we are going back a little bit now.
Unfortunately, you never took the plunge and signed Steve Lawson in those days?
Well, it was a little bit too far away, I believe, wasn't he? And in those days, I mean, obviously he was from the Workington area, as we all know, and a farmer, I believe. And now I see his youngster knocking around, and I just looked at him a little while ago, and I thought to myself, good God, if that's a chip off the old block, I don't know what.
So then Blantyre 1 closed down, and it was a short hop across the park to Craighead Park. Quite a different racing circuit to Blantyre 1, plus there was an old faces returning, like Brian Collins, your next door neighbour Andy Reid, Jimmy McMillan. Were those fun days?
Yeah, in the beginning there were, because the place had potential. When we first went in there was so much that was going to be done, and we were all enthusiastic about it, but it deteriorated from the first season, mainly because the crowds weren't coming in, because there was no facilities, and you need money to build the facilities, so it was a catch-22 situation, and it just slowly deteriorated. It's a shame, because when the track was first put in, it wasn't too bad, but as they started having hassle with the football, the track got squarer and the racing fell away. The racing was poor. You can't ride on a square track. I've always felt that. And well, it eventually closed down. It lasted longer than I thought it would towards the end.
Why didn't you leave Glasgow at that point?
I don't know. I don't really know. I felt as though, I kept hearing that we were going to move into the city and get a decent track, and I looked forward to that day, and I went round with Dave Thompson, the then promoter of Glasgow, and we looked at a couple of various stadiums. Shawfield was one of them, but at the time it was overgrown with weeds and it looked really derelict, and I was surprised when I went back there when we eventually did move in there to see the change in the place. And well, that's the best stadium we've ever had.
Before the good there was the bad though. A trip across the border and into Workington. Perhaps you could take up the story from there.
Yeah, well, when I heard that news, I thought, it was only going to be for, what was it, first 6 weeks until we got into the city. I thought, well, that can't be too bad, like maybe do 6 meetings there. I could manage that, but it ended up we were going to do the whole season, and they just couldn't run it from Glasgow, coming down on a Friday afternoon and doing everything that needs to be done at the Speedway track within a matter of 2 hours before the meeting. It's just impossible to do that. There was wet meetings. When it first opened, there was a good crowd, but it rained. It was doomed from the start. It was just a no-go right from the word go. And I was pleased when we eventually did get kicked out of the league. you know, I wasn't too bothered about it, to be honest. I'd had enough that year. I felt as though I was at rock bottom. You know, I couldn't really cared if the whole thing had closed down. Then I was just fed up with it. And but you know, Shawfield came along, and then.
When you first of all heard that the Tigers were moving to Workington, were you not sort of slightly looking forward to it because you've perhaps treated as a prodigal son?
No, I wanted to get away from there. When I left Workington, I wanted to get away from there, and I didn't. And then I was being forced back there, so I wasn't looking forward to it at all. I don't like being the local boy.
I would just like to say it's a privilege and a pleasure to be here on behalf of the 261 Tigers. Radio Clyde are very proud to be associated with them because I've actually ridden on a bike before myself, you know. Rode on a bike, that was the proper thing. You know, I've been on a bike myself with Bobby Beaton.
So the Workington chapter of the Steve Lawson story closed, and it was on to Shawfield. A new chapter, a new beginning, and a fresh new start.
Yeah. It was all, you know, very professional. After, you know, for what we'd had, there was like press conferences. There was, you know, things that we just not used to in Glasgow at the time. The track was immaculate, the stadium was immaculate, and you know, you just felt as though we just moved up a league. And the crowds on the first night, I'll never forget that, the crowd that we had the first night at Shawfield. The place was chock-a-block, and you could actually hear the crowd, the roar from the crowd above the noise of the bikes. And that's the first time I've ever experienced that. That was something that I won't forget.
So that's the 261 Tigers for 1988. A good squad and very much changed days for the Tigers in this marvellous stadium at Shawfield. Such a difference from the rather unsatisfactory stadia which they've had to populate in the last few years. So there's a team photo going to be taken. That's about all we'll be looking at of the parade on the video. We'll be going with the racing shortly. The Glasgow 261 Tigers, sponsored by Kishorn Windows, versus the Edinburgh Novaphone Monarchs. This is it, the first ever race at Shawfield Stadium. And it's Steve Lawson from the inside, Les Collins on the outside, and Lawson's gone to the front. Collins second and Jeremy Luckhurst in third. Collins striving to find some grip to catch Lawson. Martin McKenna tailed off at the moment. And Steve Lawson pulling out a lead over the Edinburgh #1 Collins. Steve Lawson, king of the Tigers for so long, and a great start for him. Fairly well clear now. Track riding well, looks smooth. Les Collins may be making up a bit of ground there as 3 laps gone into the final lap. Les Collins not all that far away from Steve Lawson now. I think Lawson's going to do it. Les Collins, a tremendous burst on the final corner, and it's Lawson by half a length. A tremendous start to Speedway at Shawfield. A great bid on the last corner there by Les Collins, but it's Steve Lawson winning the first race for the Tigers, the 261 Tigers. A great race, and that is Speedway Shawfield style. Here we go then, the final race of the first meeting, and a good meeting it's been, a very good start for the 261 Tigers. They've got the convener's trophy sewn up. What can Steve Lawson do here? Les Collins a good gate. Steve Lawson in second, Wayne Ross third, and Doug Wire at the back. Now Les Collins is a flyer, he will be very hard for Steve Lawson to catch. Steve clinging to the line there, trying to come through, and he's almost through there. Les Collins just hanging on, and Steve Lawson falls. And Wayne Ross lays down, and that was clearly captured on the camera there. A good shot of Steve Lawson just coming a cropper there, trying to force his way inside Les Collins. A fine lay down by Wayne Ross, just being congratulated by Dick Barry down on the track.
First night, you know, everything just sort of went great, and after that, you know, we just felt we settled into the place. And there's been some great matches there at Shawfield. We've had our ups and downs, but you know, that's been the best move Glasgow have made while I've been connected with the club anyway.
So how have you enjoyed Shawfield compared to the other tracks, especially like Blantyre 1, which you said you really enjoyed?
Yeah. If we could have put the stadium around the Blantyre 1, that would have been heaven. You know, that track in the Shawfield Stadium, it would have been perfect. But I mean, you can't have everything you want. I'm quite happy with the place as it is.
So we must remind you of Exeter, the unforgettable meeting where you came along and you weren't programmed. How much of a low light was that in your whole career?
Well, I was told about it. You know, I was told the week before that I wouldn't be in by Neil McFarland. He told me that I wouldn't be in, and it wasn't actually until I got to the track and you look at the programme, your name isn't in there. You know, after the, was it 13 years, and your name wasn't in the programme, that it does sort of sink in. You feel as though you've just been, you know, brushed aside, and you know, you're not wanted. It isn't a very nice feeling, but you know yourself what happened there. Martin McKinnon was ill, and I did get in the team. In actual fact, I wasn't even going to turn up. I was just going to stay at home until you know, they decided they would use me again. But I just got an engine back from Trevor Hedge, and I wanted to try it out after the meeting. That was the only reason I was there.
Can you tell us what your fondest memories are of Steve riding for the Tigers?
The fondest memory, like yourself, I've seen so many races, but the fondest memory wasn't on the track. It was actually last year, and the video company recorded it. And it's when the promotion decided to drop Steve at the beginning of the season because he wasn't performing up to what they classified as a standard. And the camera caught him sitting on the bike on the track when the lads went round in the home straight to cheer him on, something they never do at home. And the expression in his face expressed it. I mean, it's his feeling for the supporters and vice versa. He's not a superstar, but he knows who he's riding for, and he gives all out at every occasion. You know, there's no exceptions to that.
Usual in that Steve Lawson, I was going to say Steve Lawson's not riding. He wasn't in the programmed side. He is standing in the lineup though, but in fact I think it's a change in the Tigers lineup. So we'll revise what I was saying there and tell you that at number 1 it's Charlie McKenna for the Radio Chloride Tigers tonight. At number 2, getting a war cry from the fans, the man who hasn't started the season terribly well, it's Steve Lawson. Heat 8, Jason Lyons, with 1 win from 1 ride under his belt. He's on the inside gate. Next to him, tactical substitute, Steve Redgeling. He's had 2 wins from 2. Gate 3, it's Steve Lawson, so the 2 skippers in this race. And the man on the outside, Steve Bishop. No points from 2 rides so far. And it's Redgeling and Lawson. Redgeling again, I think, going to the front. Although Jason Lyons craftily creeping up the inside to the surprise of Steve Redgeling, who glanced across to see who on earth it was challenging him. Steve Lawson moving into second, and Redgling's made a complete mess of that corner and dropped back to third. Goodness knows how he got away out there. And the Tigers are away. Redgling pressurising Jason Lyons. Got his work cut out to pass the young Australian. So the tactical substitute hasn't worked out for the Falcons. I don't think Redgling's even going to get second. Closing in on the final corner. But Lyons hasn't made a mistake since he got through. A big win for Steve Lawson and a second for Jason Lyons. A 5-1 to the Radio Clyde Tigers.
Bad batch of cage bearings in the big end. There's nothing I can do about it until 2 week time. We're getting some new ones. He says, what I'll do is, I'll put it right for you, but I'll just have to replace it with these cages that are failing. I said, well, that's not much good. He said, well, have you got any old ones, old cages from last year? I said, I have. He says, right, send it and I'll put that in it. So it's in his hands at the moment.
So another meeting that was memorable for all the wrong reasons, Steve, must be the pairs with you and Jimmy Mack, where Glasgow had come their nearest to winning a national trophy. That must have been a night to remember.
I can remember the last race as if it was yesterday. Jimmy was leading the race. I was watching it from the back. Jimmy was good round Bellevue, and the competition was the winner of the final. That was the pair that got through. So that was the plan. Jimmy went off any gate he wanted, you know, between him and myself. He just was going to win it. And I'm watching him go around the last bend, and he was leading the race, and I was at the back, and I was almost letting go of the handlebars to punch the air, and then his bike packed in. And I couldn't tell who had got the decision over the line until I got back to the pits and realised that we hadn't won it. So, you know, I felt as though I was disappointed, but I thought, well, you know, there'll be another year, but that's the closest we've ever been.
So it was testimonial time for Steve, and we were still at Workington. Then they closed down. Yeah. You must have thought you weren't going to get one, but was it worth waiting for?
That was the best thing when when they closes down at Workington. If I'd had my testimonial there, in front of, you know, maybe 50, 60 people, that would have been brilliant, wouldn't it? But, you know, it was well worth waiting for. Plus, it gave us a chance to sell all the jackets and the Steve Lawson testimonial tea towels and things like that. It gave us extra time to sell that. So I got me 11-year testimonial at Shawfield, and just couldn't have worked out better.
Did you enjoy that night?
Yes, when it was all finished with, yeah. I thought, oh, it'll be all right. We'll just go through it like a meeting, you know, do a bit of say a couple of thank yous at the end. But it gets to you, you know, when it's sort of your night. I know Jeff Powell just got one recently, and it got to Jeff, and Jeff's pretty stony-faced, isn't he, Jeff? It got to Jeff, and they do the, you know, when. They're well worth having, though. It was well worth the, you know, staying on at Glasgow to get it.
It's Mark Fiora, and on the outside in green it's Doug Wire, and what a mass start. And it's Kenny McKenna, the unbeaten man during the match, going to the front. Steve Lawson slots into second, Mark Fiora third. Doug Wire just passing Les Collins for fourth. And that means that Brett Saunders is the man at the back, just out of the picture. Kenny McKenna, paid maximum during the match. leading the way in this six-man, six-lap final. Steve Lawson pressing him in second place. Mark Fiora in third. And Mark Fiora making ground on Steve Lawson. Steve Lawson making ground on Kenny McKenna. Takes about 3 laps, 6 laps remember this race, so it takes stamina as well as the usual speed and skill. Kenny McKenna now starting to pull out a lead. And after 4th place man Les Collins is now quite a gap. There's the first 4. That second man Steve Lawson there, the testimonial man. Riding as well as ever, beautiful style. But Kenny McKenna's well in front. And the last man, Brett Saunders, now about half a lap behind Kenny McKenna. Kenny's flying. And he celebrates with a wheelie. That's 6 laps. Kenny McKenna wins. Steve Lawson second. Mark Fiora third. Les Collins fourth. Doug Wire fifth. And Brett Saunders also celebrating with a wheelie. Comes home in 6th place. So that's the final, and a win for Kenny McKenna, and a great conclusion to the Steve Lawson testimonial.
Conclusion of your testimonial. Simply, thank you. The I was looking very for handsome gentleman to give that lady a kiss, and I said it wasn't safe. You better do it yourself. This is for your lady, because she's put up with an awful lot of phone calls and things from people all the time. Where's that from?
And because there's a tear in this eye, I got a stone during one of the races, so it isn't sentimental, not it might be, I don't know. I just hope you've all enjoyed the night. I certainly have. It's all sort of gone over my head, and it probably sinks in on the way home. I've enjoyed it tremendously, and it's a night that I'll never forget. So once again, thanks for everybody for turning out. I'll run back with it now, and I'll probably remember some more people that I didn't thank.
Well, Steve, have you always been in farming?
Put differently, yeah. Yeah, farming, and I've managed to combine the two, the speedway and the farming. Some would say I don't do much farming, but I'm also available for work. Yeah, this is it. This is my life. I'll probably be a bit more farming when I retire from speedway.
So has this been handed down the line then?
Yeah, my grandfather was here. My dad, then it'll be me, then my young'uns and their young'uns.
So what type of farm is it then?
It's a very old one, Christopher. 1716. No, it's a dairy farm at the moment, but who knows what the future brings. It's dairy. We used to have, it used to be sort of mixed. We had, like, listen to the magpie in the background, they picked that up. We used to have sheep, we used to have magpies. But now it's just a dairy farm with the odd magpie. Sorry about that.
Well, Steve, we first saw Daisy at 11 o'clock this morning and we're still waiting in this calf to be born. There seems to be a wee bit of a problem. What's going wrong?
Well, I think she should have calved by now. I think I better go and get assistance, and we'll give her a bit of give her a bit of a hand. I think.
We're going for the hot water and towels and the rope.
It looks like the hot water and towels. It does at this minute, at this moment in time. Probably hot water towels and a bit of soap, and we'll have it out of there.
So what was it like to see young Steve racing round at what must have been a talked about venue in town?
It was all right at first because he was on his own. With him being 15, he had nobody else had to be on the track with him. And well, it was good. It was exciting watching him.
You obviously encouraged him the whole way. Was this a sort of frustrated speedway rider coming out in you?
Well, bikes, yes. I'd always had all bikes about, but as I say, I'd never seen speedway before till he came to Workington.
And do you remember much about Steve's first meeting?
Yeah, I do. He got knocked off on first corner. It was against Bradford. Can't remember the chap that did it, but I think he scored 1 point or something. He went out in second half and won reserve race.
So how do you think Steve's changed in his attitude towards his racing over the years, or have you even seen a change in him?
After he broke his arm at Bellevue, I think he looked at it in a different sort of a way. I think he was a bit more cautious after that.
And what does his mum think about Steve racing on motorbikes?
She was scared. Scared.
So you must be a very proud father then. You must remember the earlier days with fond memories. Is there any especially that you remember?
No, I don't think there's any especially, but as I say, I'm proud of him. He's done everything I wanted him to do, you know. Couldn't ask for more.
Afternoon, Steve. A brilliant afternoon. 18-point maximum. 21-point maximum. In fact, 18 for England. You won your heat. You won the 6-man final. It's really going great for you today.
Yeah, I'm chuffed to bits with it. I've done a lot of work on the bike actually, and I've been doing the ice for 3 years, and you learn a few things as you go along, and I think that the quality of ride is improving all the time. But I still don't think I'm anywhere near Jan Anderson, even on today's performance. I just wouldn't get a look in if he was here.
What's the secret? You're so quick off the gate, Steve. Andy Campbell's pretty quick, but you've outgauged him each time so far, and in the 6-man final it was rerun 3 times, and each time you were still the quickest one off that gate.
Yeah, I think basically you haven't got to try too hard at the gate, like on conventional speedway. You just wind the throttle right up and you just give it everything, but it's totally opposite on the ice. You more or less got to just relax and take it easy.
So Lawson needs to win to keep in touch with Campbell, Morton, Jorgensen and Julie Cross. So Lawson in 3 right, it's his third right. He's had 1 inside gate, 1 outside, and now straight back to the inside. Settling for race 12. Eyes go down towards the tapes. The 4 riders perfectly still. The starting marshal walks away and Lawson slides perfectly away for the start and already in control of race number 12. It's Morton in second, Jorgensen third, Cross at the back. A beautiful start again from Steve Lawson. He's way in control already. He moves on to lap 2. Morton in second, Jorgensen third. These 3 pulling away from Julie Cross. They make their way into the top corner once again, and Lawson's control from the start is so imperative, so important. And absolutely taking number 12 in his stride now as he moves through onto lap 4. A good battle for second and third between Morton and Jorgensen. Jorgensen trying to take a long right around the outside. Morton grimly on the second. Jorgensen gives everything round the outside, cuts back from the inside line. Can he snatch that second place? Lawson already completed and won it. Morton goes wide. Jorgensen comes late but just can't quite pinch it. And it's a win there for Steve Lawson, 3 rides, 3 wins to keep pace with Andy Campbell second, Chris Morton third spot, John Jorgensen, and that's the interval in the first ever British Open indoor race. So it could be a real crackerjack race 19. All the riders here have won a heat in this one, and it's just a matter of how much superior are Campbell and Lawson than the rest. So it looks like we could be away this time, about 44 seconds away from history as to where they go, and it's Olsen making a good gate, and Lawson squeezed by Olsen, Campbell back in third, Lawson go wide, Olsen gets in front of Lawson, and Campbell trying to follow him through. It's Olsen then from Lawson, Campbell in third, Halsinger at the back, and it's Dick and Todd, and Lawson falls out, he's lost his chance now, as Olsen shows him from Campbell. The red lights are on as Steve Lawson's trapped against the fence. One would imagine he will pay the penalty and be excluded. Steve Lawson is excluded. Olsen, I thought he might be, was the apple cart merchant. He made a superb gate for the inside. Lawson picked a line through and then but went too wide, and Olsen riding about a bit. Campbell was biding his time, and then in a desperate bid round the outside, Steve Lawson comes down. He is excluded, and drama there in race number 19. Ian Thomas has words with Steve Lawson to see if he can try and put him back in the race, but really he did cause the fall himself. It just depends how strictly referee Paul Ackroyd enforced the rules. He was not interfered with any way. He was out on his own when he came down. On conventional speedway he really wouldn't have a case. Whether with a situation like it is Paul Ackroyd will put him back in remains to be seen. Shake of the head tells the crowd that the referee will not change his mind. So settling the taints for the final race of the day, and Lawson this time makes his customary quick start, and Hossain's got it the hard way. He centrally dives for the inside. Lawson with a bump coming up that corner, but managed to hold his line superbly, and Hossain is really going to work hard for it now. Lawson then from Hossain, about 10 yards to gap. And unless he does anything stupid, Steve Lawson's going to take second spot. Hossain trying hard but really losing contact all the time. Lawson made his customary quick start, hugs the tight line, leads into the top corner. He's almost the length of the straightaway from Hossain there, and makes a mistake with Hossain on that bottom corner. And really Steve Lawson can push it over there, looks over his shoulder, and Hossain in fact falls on the pits corner. So Steve can skill it home, gets the second. And the veteran campaigner Richard Hossain, who's mixed it with the youngsters very, very well this afternoon, comes to the finish a very creditable third. So Steve Lawson gets the applause of the crowd for finishing second. He really entertained the people this afternoon with a super 18-pointer for England, and he is second overall with Richard Hossain, linking up with Steve Lawson, shake his hands, getting the third spot. So that's the 1, 2, 3 in the British Open to win.
In second place, as they go on to the rostrum, ladies and gentlemen, in second place, Scotland's own Steve Lawson.
Rival skipper with Steve Lawson for the last 4 years, Brett Saunders. Do you enjoy racing against Steve, Brett?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
You want to say a bit more than that?
Yeah, Steve's, he's a very fair rider. He's a racer, but he's very fair. He always leaves you a bit of room, and he's consistent, you know. There's not a lot more you can say about it. It's almost a perfect rider.
Can you remember any race in particular with him?
Not really, no. But I just always remember when I first came over, that's when they were riding that old Bland tyre. And his style was just so much like Ollie Olsen's, I thought, you know. He was brilliant around there, really good. But I can't remember any race in particular I've had against him, no.
Heat 6, the Tigers' strong opening pairing, Steve Lawson and Shane Bowes against the skipper of the Monarchs, Brett Saunders, and their Dane Lars Munkadal out on the outside gate. And Lars Munkadal taking some time to settle. Starting Marshal Billy Wilson telling him it's about time he was in line, and he's quite right. The Belmont Monarchs lead by 2. But I think the Tigers have gated here. It's a very tight first corner, and Munkadal pushed out the road there on the first bend. Brett Saunders goes round Shane Bowes. Steve Lawson comes charging up the inside. Tremendous back straight there. And it's Saunders leading, but Lawson right on his tail, pressing hard. And Brett Saunders going to have to work hard here because Steve Lawson's got him in his sights. Oh, Saunders makes a mistake there, goes wide, and Steve Lawson almost through. And Shane Bowes is not far out of contention either. Lars Munkadal well back. So Saunders doing exceptionally well so far. And he's got a winning lead now if he can avoid making a mistake. So the Tigers maybe were disappointed with that, I think. They must have thought they had a chance of getting something back here. But Brett Saunders has done it for the Belmont Monarchs, and he maintains the 2-point lead, 19-17 in favour of Edinburgh.
Well, Ian, we see you busily working away here on race nights with Steve. What exactly is your involvement?
Well, help him between races, prepare the bike for the next race, clean off the dirt. If we have to change gear, check the tyre pressure, fuel it and oil it. Well, fuel it now, oil, you just check in a sight glass. It's not as the older days where you used to have to fill up the frame and you make sure the oil was topped up. But basically just to keep it ready, get it ready for the next race.
So I take it it's not just the engine you've got to keep tuned up, but also Steve on race nights?
You've got to keep him going as well. A wee bit of encouragement after each race, it goes a long way. Especially if it's in a downer, if things haven't went out in the track, a wee bit of encouragement helps them.
So how did you pick up this job then?
Helping Steve. In 1980 I was helping Andy Reid. I'd been helping Brian Collins previous, and Brian left, and I was helping Andy Reid. In the beginning of 1980 Andy broke his thigh at Edinburgh, first meeting of the season, and I really had nothing to do, so I started helping Steve along with Jeff Powell, who that year was bringing a bike to the Speedway and riding second halves. So Jeff was getting more involved with his bike, so I sort of got more involved with Steve's bike. And by the end of the season, Jeff was sort of breaking into the team, so I more or less took over when Jeff went into the team proper and Andy went to Cradley Heath.
So working so closely with Steve, what do you think of him as a rider and as a person?
Yeah, maybe it's unfortunate, but he's a gentleman as a rider, which maybe isn't his, well, I suppose it is to his credit, but he certainly could be a wee bit more aggressive sometimes, I think. But I've never heard him saying a cross word of it. If he runs down MD when he comes in, it's himself for his own feelings, no anybody else is out in the track. So, no, he's a gentleman. He's a gentleman. Too good to be a speedway rider.
Well, Tom, can you tell us how it happened that you became written into the Steve Lawson story?
Many years ago, when promotion used to run what they called the team bus, where that was the riders used to go on the away trips and the bikes were put underneath the coach. A lot of the supporters used to go along to assist and subsidise the bus to the promotion. It would save obviously the riders being paid their travel expenses. A lot of the supporters used to go in the coaches, and at the Stoke match, Andy Reid needed some assistance in the pits, and after I was in the shower area, he was wanting actually to wash his leathers, literally wash his leathers with them still on in the shower area. Steve had said to him at the time, well, you would ruin them, so he actually said to me, give him a hand, use a sponge, clean his leathers. Thereafter, started helping Andy in the pits, and on after that to Steve, and that was maybe 6 or 7 years ago. Well, since then, I've been on nearly all the way trips with Steve, to all the league fixtures, etc. And we got ourselves involved in the Steve Lawson Testimonial Fund, and that was a tremendous success. One of the biggest ever cheques handed over to a rider for his testimonial years, somewhere in the region of £15,000 was a sum collected, and I think that actually tells the story about Steve Lawson, how people react to him when his name's mentioned. I mean, for many years he was a man to carry Glasgow Tigers, scoring sometimes more than half of the team's points on the away trips. And I think if you ask many people on the terraces who is their most favourite Tigers rider, I would probably think they would say Steve Lawson.
So, I owe it all to Tom McCrone, by the way. He's just slipping that dope in and that oil. He's just
he was a demon.
Is this what made the difference tonight?
Aye.
What happened to the 1 point you dropped?
Aye.
It was against Peter Carr.
Peter Carr, aye. Well, he got away, and I was trying to catch him, but I couldn't. And then I thought, well, we've won the match, you know, and we're still in one piece. The bike's holding together. 14 doesn't sound bad, so I just hung in there for the second, and that was it.
There was only two names coming from the Terracing tonight. One was whispered, and it was David Barge, and the other was chanted, and it was Steve Lawson. And I think you deserved that tonight, yeah?
I heard the chant, yeah. I love it when I hear that, you know. They gave me the old chant when I was down to reserve. No, when I was dropped completely by Neil McFarlane. I just walked past. And did it tonight, yeah, I love it. So, it's very encouraging.
Well, Andy, we've come down to speak to Steve, and we've found you here, living next door to Steve. What's your connection to him?
I'm his brother-in-law. I married his sister. I've known him for quite a few years now, 10, 12, 15 years I would say. So I know him rather well.
Of course, you were at one time Glasgow's youngest captain. You must remember those early days riding with Steve.
Oh yeah, that's right. Good days. There's no going back though. Steve's still hard at it. What can I say? Best rider Glasgow's probably had. Actually, he's probably the best rider in the world if you look at it from certain aspects. If you look at the amount of points he's scored, his consistency, the amount of injuries he's had, there's nobody else in the world rode as long as well.
So how did you enjoy riding alongside him as brother-in-law?
We had our differences on the day, but most people do. You know, we had different riding styles and techniques that didn't really complement riding together very well, but as regards riding in the same team, no problems.
So many people will still be interested to know, what are you doing now?
Oh, I'm just a working man, family man. Kids work, eat, sleep, drink, nothing special.
So do you get time to catch the odd speedway match now?
Yeah, I see a few, not that many actually. It left a bit of a void in my life when I stopped riding speedway, and I didn't stop under ideal circumstances. And going back as a spectator, you know, doesn't really fill that gap. So I'm not that keen to watch too many meetings. I still have an interest. I've not long since built a bike up, just for fun, and I have a long track bike that I'm building up, and I hope to do a few sand races and just really enjoy it rather than anything serious.
Well, it's good to know that you're still keeping in touch, and thanks a million for speaking to us.
Thank you.
Similar blend with the Glasgow Tigers. Their lineup at number 1 is Steve Lawson. At number 2, Colin Caffrey. Number 3, next to him, is Andy Reid. A bearded side, as you can see there, at 2 and 3. Number 4, moving on to the young Scots now, Martin McKenna. Number 5, one of the older Scots, Brian Collins. And the 2 reserves, number 6, Jim Beaton, whose father promotes Glasgow. And number 7 for the Tigers is young Tam Bagley. There's at the starting gate for heat number 1 on the inside in white. We have Steve Lawson for Glasgow. Next to him for Arena Essex in red, Alan Sage, gate 3 in yellow and black. Colin Caffrey for Glasgow in gate 4. In blue for the home side, Martin Goodwin. Well, Steve Lawson in white, one of the National League's top performers. His average 11 points out of 12 over the opening few meetings. And showing first, it's Lawson, and it's Goodwin on his outside. Goodwin, obviously lifted by those away performances, and you can see the dust really rising here at the Arena Essex. Lawson leads, and it's Hammer's second and third. Goodwin in trouble on this circuit, badly needing watering here tonight. Already right in the opening heat, clouds of dust surrounding the circuit. And there Alan Sage running out of track, out of the race. So that's a blow for the Essex Radio Hammers. I don't think anyone, though, behind the leader can see where they're going here tonight. Lawson leads. In second place in blue, it's Martin Goodwin. Third in yellow and black, Colin Caffrey. Glasgow have the 4-2. Lawson's been around the scene for 10 years now. Started with Workington back in '74. He's a top liner at Derwent Park before the Comets closed. In the meantime, though, he'd moved over to Glasgow. And there in second place, Martin Goodwin. No, Goodwin's been relegated to third. It's Caffrey in second. Caffrey slipping through into second place, another experienced rider. 31 years of age now. And Lawson wins it, second in yellow and black, on a very close finish. In fact, it was just getting my riders right. It was Martin Goodwin who finished second. Third in yellow and black, Colin Caffrey. Nearly said Bill Barrett there. Goodwin, though, impressing very much like Barrett. The lineup for heat number 4. On the inside, we have in the red helmet colour Bob Humphries. Next to him is the rider in white, and that's Andy Reid. Gate 3 in blue, Dave Smart, and gate 4 in yellow and black, Tam Bagley. And after the tapes first, it's Humphries. It's the Glasgow pairing second and third. David Smart at the back, and Smart shut out by the pairing of Reid and Bagley. Andy Reid with Cradley Heath not so long ago in the British League. Oh, and David Smart now cutting through inside the young Bagley for third place. Humphries leading the way in first, and Smart has third place now. Well, the dust not quite so bad as it was in the opening heats now. Bob Humphries holding down a very tight line in front of Andy Reid. Andy Reid, despite the name, in fact comes from the Manchester area. Sounds very Scottish, but in fact is not. And it's Bob Humphries now, the Australian resident in Britain. Out of the sport for 2 seasons before signing for the Essex Radio Hammers, leading heat number 4 in front of Andy Reid. Third in blue, Dave Smart. Tam Bagley out of the race at the back, and Humphries can he hold it in on the final turn? He's got problems. Oh, and so has Andy Reid. It's on. There's a chance for David Smart as well. Andy takes it. It's a win in red for Bob Humphries. A marvellous second place from David Smart. Humphries and Reid both going wide on the turn, and Smart seeing his gap.
However, Steve, things were to change in 1990 when Glasgow won their first national trophy in the National Series. You were there. You can tell the story.
We qualified for the series quite comfortably. We were finished in the top 9, and we were on a roll at the time, and we quite fancied our chances. Got to the final, and there was a couple of wet meetings, and there was excuses at different tracks, but down to the last one was at Glasgow, and we did, you know, the team, as I say, we were on a roll. Everybody was doing the bit, and we won the damn thing.
It's Lyons who's made the best start. Andy Graham's trying to go round the field, and I think he's done it, although Lyons is going to press him here. Graham, though, an excellent first corner. Lyons roars inside him. Tremendous riding by the Australian, and Steve Lawson's coming into contention as well, and they've pushed Andy Graham out the way. Greater determination without question coming from the Tigers there, and they've left Graham a long way behind. Well, that's what it takes in these conditions and in this importance of a meeting. But Andy Graham found wanting there, and the Tigers are miles clear. So Lyons, his first British season, he's finishing out with a flourish. Steve Lawson's looking after him here. They're not under any threat from the opposition. They just have to make sure they don't make any mistakes. And Andy Graham is an enormous distance behind now. Wimbledon must be very disappointed with that effort. 5 to the Tigers. It's, I think, Lawson that wins the race. They take 5. Glasgow now on 26, and they're on their way. Wimbledon are on 19. Stoke are on 15. Heat 15, another vital race. The top Stoke pairing of Eric Monaghan and Chris Cobby take on the Tigers, Steve Lawson and Jason Lyons. From the inside, it's Cobby, Lyons, Monaghan and Lawson. And the Tigers must avoid a big reversal here. And Lawson, a beautiful start. Cobby's gated as well. Cobby from the inside, but Lawson's gone past him on the first corner. And Monaghan's at the back at the moment. Tigers in the ascendancy once again. Lawson well clear. Lyons trying to catch Cobby, but he's very wide there. Oh, and Lawson stopped. Oh, good heavens. Terrible luck for the Tigers. And they've already had Shane Bowes stopping, so they're not enjoying much good fortune. Lyons chasing Chris Cobby for all his worth. And Lion spins off and it clatters into the fence. So he's out of that one, and I don't think he's even going to get the 1 point. It was such a heavy fall. Jason's on the centre green, so Tigers get nothing out of that race. Oh, it's difficult to calculate just what effect that's going to have. 3 heats to go and a disastrous race for Tigers. They held a 4-2 position at one point. They finished up with 0 and Stoke take 5. So the Tigers are now on 34, Wimbledon are on 29 and Stoke are on 26. Bo's trying to go round the outside of Simpson. Has he done it here? He's done it! Brilliant riding by Shane Bowes wins the race for the Tigers, and that could be the vital point. A sensational victory on the last bend for Shane Bowes. This is Heat 18, this is the one that could win the Tigers their first national trophy in their existence. They need to score just 1 point here. They've got the McKenna brothers, Kenny and Charlie. The opposition coming from Stokes, Gary Stead and David Clark. 1 point will do it. Kenny's on a maximum, so he'll be looking for a win. Wimbledon and Glasgow level as they go into this race, but Wimbledon aren't in it. And it's Kenny McKenna from gate 4. He's gated. David Clark was in second, but Charlie's gone past him. And the Tigers looking to finish it with a big 5-1. Gary Stead's through into third place. And we've seen how well he can ride. Charlie McKenna's fallen off and David Clark's laid down. So, the victory may be delayed. He's got 1 lap to go. He could push home now no matter what happens. He's wheeling. He's got 1 bend to go. The fans are waiting to acclaim a maximum and a national trophy victory. A wave and a victory wheelie from Kenny McKenna. The Glasgow Radio Play Tigers win the national series. The crowd are thrilled. On tonight's meeting, the Tigers have scored 40.
Well, Steve, we said we'd speak to a proud captain, and you must be tonight.
Oh yeah, brilliant to win, to actually win something. You know, I've been riding for Glasgow all these years, and to actually win a National League major final, oh, it's brilliant. I fancied our chances in this when I saw the 3 teams, the 2 of the teams that reached the final, Stoke, Wimbledon, and the good thing about it was it's 3 fair tracks. Glasgow's a fair track. Stoke and Wimbledon, they're usually well prepared, and it just give you heart to go and race on them.
So, how does this rate in your highlights of all time then, Steve?
Oh yes, very high, very near the top, yeah. You know, to win a final, as I say, which involved the whole of the National League. I know the top 9 teams, but you had to finish in the top 9 in the league to get into the competition. So, just delighted with it.
And what does it feel like to be at the helm of a team that has won its first ever national trophy?
Quite good. Somebody, what the hell? Somebody said, you know, why do you think we've done it? And it's team spirit. The whole lot, all the boys, we've fancied our chances in this competition, and we've gone and done it. It was, I don't know whether because it wasn't, we weren't expected to win it. It didn't seem to get the publicity I felt it deserved, because you know you had to be good to be in the competition, and we beat the best teams in the league at the time, and I didn't feel we got the recognition for doing it. Although everybody in Glasgow was delighted, it didn't seem to get the national recognition that I felt it deserved. But it was nice to win something big.
So how did you feel after Heat 16 when the crowd was chanting your name?
Oh, yeah, I'm quite amused when they start doing that. It's a bit embarrassing at times, you know, if you go, especially when you go to some of the away tracks and you go in the bar afterwards, and then they start doing the old chant. Yeah, you know, you don't really know which way to look sometimes. But it's a good feeling, obviously, but it can be a bit embarrassing, that.
So we're now at 1991, Steve, 14 years later. How would you like to be remembered, and how would you summarise your career, do you think?
How would I like to be remembered? There's probably... I don't feel as though I've done anything spectacular over the years, but I've probably been, you know, loyal to the club that I've ridden for, and I've been, yeah, reliable. Let's say reliable. I don't know. You know, that's probably my best asset.
And
Steady.
How many more years do you think we've got for watching Steve Lawson?
You better ask Neil McFarlane that one. No, don't say that. The last couple of years, I've discussed it with my wife, Kath. We just sort of look at it, you know, at the end of the season. If I felt as though I've had a decent year and I've still enjoyed it, we'll do it again the next year. You know, that's the way I look at it at the moment.
Kath, can I firstly start off by asking you, where did you meet Steve?
It was through Stephen's friend, going out with my friend, and just making a foursome up while we were still at school.
And now as his wife, how have you found being a wife of a speedy rider?
Just like any other normal wife, apart from all the travelling, having to get the children out of school early, and can't hold a steady job down because nobody will give me time off.
You mentioned your children now, they both seem to be awfully interested in motorbikes, as we can see from behind us. How do you feel as a mother with their interest in motorbikes getting greater?
As a mum, you're nervous, but I wouldn't stop them doing it. It's been a good life for Stephen. I mean, we've got to countries we wouldn't normally have gone to, and a good lifestyle with it. So if they get as much out of it as we have, I'll encourage them.
Does this mean added trophies to the Lawson household?
Oh yes, we had an extra one yesterday off Simon.
Well, Steve, we're now in one of the rooms that you spend quite a lot of your time in. Maybe you can tell us where we are and what you do.
Well, this is the nerve centre. No, this is where I do the bikes. As you can see, everything's in its place, tidy, plenty of room. There's not a bit of dust anywhere. And no, it's just the way I like it. I like things when I'm working on an engine. Maybe you can see there's an engine strip down there. I like to just get into it, just drop the spanners as I'm using them, and I'm probably not very tidy person, but you know, I managed to get things sorted in the end. No, as you can see, there's not a lot of room. I had motocross bikes in here, Simon's, Richard's, other people's bikes in here, and there was even less space then, but I've now, next door, used to be the hen hull, that's now Simon and Richard's place where they keep their bikes, so I've got the place to myself again. So, and the chickens, they've moved around the yard. I had to build them. Oh, it's endless. I've had to build them a new place to live in. Left the door open. The fox got them, so that was a waste of time.
And how much time on average a week do you spend in here?
Whatever I say, Kath will say more, because most nights I'm in here. I suppose most of my life. You know these four walls better than any four walls. You've just got to. You've got to spend as much time as you can. You know, there's certain times. You know, when we're busy on the farm, that I can't spend as much time as I like. But up to now, you know, I've managed to fit the both in. I don't spend as much time on the farm as I should do. But you know, you just can't be everywhere, can you? And I mean, I've got to keep my bikes right. It's pointless doing it if the bikes are not up to standard. You're wasting your time doing it.
You've seen a lot of Speedway and a lot of Speedway riders. How does Steve compare to others?
Superbly, in every aspect. You know, and I mean, I get accused of being controversial at times, and if I thought otherwise, you know, it wouldn't perturb me to say that I felt that Steve had this or that, but really, he's absolutely superb. I mean, 2 seconds ago there, he's going to take a walk around the track, and I said to him, have a look at it, Skip, and see if you reckon it needs any water, because I personally, today, the weather conditions, I'm not sure if it does. You know, and Skip will either come in and say, yeah, it does need water, it doesn't need water, and I will accept his opinion. Now, he's superb to deal with in every aspect. There's no question. If you're in a position where you've got to drop him, he'll accept it, as he did graciously last year. If there's a race he's not going well and you drop him from his next one, he'll accept it. Superb. He's got everything. The guy's a model professional.
I know how he feels now, my dad, because my son, the oldest one, Simon, he started to race doing schoolboy motocross. And I know what it's like to be a parent now. I'd far rather be out there myself than watching him do it. I just know what it's like. You know, the heart's going like clappers, and I'd sooner be out there myself. But at the end of the day, if your son does well, it's more satisfying than if you do well yourself.
So do you see the day coming when both father and son are going to be riding for Glasgow Tigers?
No, definitely not. God, if you can imagine me in 9 years' time. Ooh, eh? No, I could imagine there being an S. Lawson in the Glasgow team in maybe 10 years' time, but I don't think it'll be me.
Well, Colin, perhaps you could tell us what the tittering on the terrace thing says about Steve Lawson.
Oh, Steve Lawson, he's always going to be one of the Tigers' brilliant riders. He's going to be the all-time #1. I know there's an argument going on about who is the Tigers' all-time #1, but to me it always will be Steve Lawson. Without Steve, there'd be no Glasgow Tigers.
Well, Sean, what's Steve's biggest asset?
I would say his wife's chest. I'd say his...
I'll go for that too, I don't want to know.
Considering how tight he is, probably his bank balance.
I don't actually know.
Don't know. Probably his wife.
And now as his wife, how have you found being a wife of a speedy rider?
I forgot what I was going to say. What was I going to say?
What do you think of your daddy when he's riding his bike?
He's alright.
Just alright? Are you hoping to do the same when you're a big boy?
Mm.
He's going to come the shy. Would you believe me?
Do you like the speedway or do you like motocross?
Motocross.
Traitor!
So what about your daddy as a speedway rider? Do you think he's any good?
Yeah, he's alright. Sometimes.
And there's a list of points from Workington and Glasgow plus the one season which we were thrown out of the league in '87. So I've got a list of all these points as well, and space at the bottom for some more.
So what do you believe Steve's greatest achievement has been to date?
His greatest achievement to date is actually conning Bill Easton at the gate, you know, and making Bill Easton look like a complete idiot. But he has won a few individual trophies, i.e. the Pride of the Potteries in 1982. That is Bill Easton, of course.
Oh, it's quite funny there, God. You try to keep a straight face, it was unbelievable.
And what was it like to see Steve appearing at what must have been quite a talked about venue in the town?
Well, he started off the first year when he was 15 and he was on his own. They wouldn't let him on with anybody else. So...
I think it's that question again. Right, you be quiet, please. No, quiet. Right, okay. So now you know the question. Right. Yeah, what's the immediate personality? This stuff like...
Good session,